Okay, so we started to be continue about Qt table.
Hey everybody, it's Brian, and this is our 12th Qt video with C++. And what we're going to do is cover the Q file. What is Q file and how do you use it? Well, Q file, if you look in the help file, is a class that provides an interface for reading and writing files. Alright, let's get going on this. Go File, New File or Project, Qt Application, Console Application, and we'll say Files, next, finish, choose your framework version. Alright. And we're just
I will check this. Okay then.
going to add a reference to QString here. Data into a string, and then you want to flush it, so make sure that everything gets right. Alright. And we're just going to add a reference to QString here. And first thing we're going to do is actually make our functions. We're going to make two functions, a read and a write. So we'll call this write. And we're going to make another one called read. And let's not forget our handy include to Qdebug. Now the first thing we want to do is actually create our file name. And I'm going to choose a file I know doesn't exist, just for the sake of speed and argument here. And then we're going to call the write function to write to the file. Oops, probably help if we gave that a variable name. Boy, I'm just not doing good with that variable today, am I? So we're going to write to the file, and then we're going to read to the file. Very simple. I'm trying to keep the main function very nice and clean, very simple to understand, because I really want to focus on Q file and how to use it. So in our write function, we want to do Q file, and we'll just say mfile, and file name. First thing you want to do is open the file. So we say
You can do
if
it and
not,
practice it slower below that.
if not open, and then we have to give it some parameters here, and we want to say Q file write only, and we're going to write text, so we'll say Q file text. Return. And let's actually write out that we couldn't do it, so we'll say Qdebug. Could not open file for writing. Alright. Alright, now if we've gotten to this point, we have an open file. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that you close that file. Now that you've ensured you've got an open file and you're going to close it, then you can add the real meat of the program here. And I'm going to use the magic of copy and paste here and actually include. Boy, I cannot type include today. QTextStream. Now, what is QTextStream? Well, if you just select it in F1, QTextStream is a class that provides convenient interface for reading and writing text. You can go ahead and read this, and it gives you actual directions on how to read and write files. It's very, very good to go through the help system and learn what you're doing rather than just blindly following tutorials you find on the internet. But for the sake of argument, let's just keep trudging on through here. So okay, text stream, and we're going to call this out. We have to give it a reference to our open file. And then we will simply say out. Hello world. Now, it's good practice if you're working with files to actually flush them. Now, what does flush do? It's kind of an old programming joke. It's like flushing the toilet. You're throwing data into a stream and then you want to flush it, so make sure that everything gets written down to disk. Most modern operating systems you really don't need to use the flush command, but it's a good idea just to add it anyways. Alright, so there is our write function. And we can pretty much just take this, copy and paste it right into read, and we've got almost everything we need. But now, of course, we need to change a few things, so we'll say read only, and text, and could not open the file for reading. And of course, we're not making an out, we're making an in. And what we're going to want to do is say qstring we'll just call it text. We want to do in read all. And let's do qdebug. Whoops. And we're just going to write the text out. And of course, we're not writing anything, so flush would do absolutely nothing for us. Alright, let's review really, really quickly here. We have our write function, which takes a file name. We're making a qfile object with that reference to that file name. And we're saying if we cannot open the file for write, that's a file mode, we're going to write to that file. That's actually a locking on some operating systems. What that says is you're locking that file so nobody else can modify it, and you're only going to write to it. And if you can't, we're going to just say couldn't open it and return. Otherwise, we're going to actually create a qtext stream, and we're going to write to the file, flush the contents, and then close the file. And then when we go to read, it's almost the exact same thing, except for putting data in the file, we're pulling it out, and we are going to just print the text out into qdebug. Now, if everything works, and I actually have to admit I haven't practiced, this is all on the fly, so we may actually have a few errors. Let's compile and run. Well, sure enough, it worked. Hello world. So what happened was it opened the file, wrote hello world to it, and then read it back and printed it into the console here. And let's just try running this again. See, sure enough, hello world. Pretty neat stuff. As you can see, it's not very hard to read and write a file in Qt. You just have to remember some of the basics, which are you create a qfile object, you open the file. If you cannot open the file, you have to immediately exit. You can't try to write anything to it. Once the file is open, be sure to close it. If you write anything to it, be sure to flush the contents. When you read the file, there are several methods to read. I'm only going to cover, the read all. The reason for that simply is time. If you want to go into the help system and qfile, it actually has some very, very nice documentation on different ways of handling it, and it even covers like how to remove a file. Alright, so running out of time here, but this is Brian. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video educational and entertaining, and we'll see you next time. Hey everybody, it's Brian, and this is our 12th, and first thing we're going to write the and do it. You can add a provide help system and call. Now, flush and but here for right, we're going to add except for mid and be sure ways you found this video editing it. If you file object to it and then writers and we file to it, write the do or not things. So we'll say read only and text. This you really have an old program, right? File. Hey everybody, it's Brian, and
we say the basic and you want.
Hey everybody, this is Brian, and welcome to the 13th Qt tutorial with C++. Today we're going to cover resource files, and as you can see, I already have a project open. If you're wondering what this is, watch the 12th Q tutorial, Q file. We cover reading and writing files. And what I've done is I've taken that same program and I've stripped it down. I've gotten rid of the write function, and if you scroll down into the main, you see I'm just doing read and then quote unquote, meaning I'm not reading anything. So we simply have our read function, and I'm going to go over this real quickly. We have a Q file, Q string, Q debug, and Q text string. Function simply takes a file name parameter. We use that file name to open a QFile object. Here we are for QFile read only. And if, of course, it doesn't open, we're just simply printing out we couldn't open it. Then we're creating a QText stream, and we are reading all of the contents and printing those contents out into QDebug and then closing the file. So let's get on to the meat of this tutorial. Right-click in your project somewhere and go Add New. Select Qt and select Resource File. Now, what is a resource file? Well, first thing, let's just create one. We'll call it my resources, and hit Next, Finish, and you are presented with this big blank thing. What is this? Well, this is your resource file. What is a resource file? A resource file is a collection of data that can be put inside your executable when it's compiled, and then you can access that data at runtime. The way Qt does it is it creates a QRC file, which is actually an XML file, and you have to add what's called a prefix, or it's kind of like a directory path. So we'll say my file is the prefix, and then we will add a file. Now you can actually add a file, and for this I'm just going to add the project file for this actual project. And you can see the contents of the file up here. Just for the sake of argument, that's what I added, but you can add whatever you want. So the full path of this would be /myfiles/files.pro. That's what a prefix is. It allows you to divide things up. I mean, you can make another prefix, and yet another one. And you could have like your own little directory structures in here, and you can add, say we're going to add main.cpp in there, and you can just keep going and going and going. But we're going to keep this nice and simple, and we just have the my files prefix, and we've got the files.pro, or the project file. I've just added it in there. Now let's go back in here, and what we need to do is read that. So how do you read out of a resource file? Well, you add a colon. You say my files/files.pro. That is very simple. That's how you read it. So when we compile and run this, you see the QDebug prints out the contents of that file. Now it's not actually reading files.pro, it's actually reading from the resource file that's embedded inside this executable. That in a nutshell is the nitty-gritty of how to work with resource files. Once again, you can put quite literally just about anything in a resource file. And for later on in the tutorial, we will get into translating your applications, and something I haven't covered yet is how and why you would do that. And a lot of times you'll actually put lists of strings in resource files, or you use the Qt translation tools, which we'll cover in later tutorials. But for this tutorial, and I realize this is a very quick one, we're just covering resource files, and you should know that a resource file is just a .qrc, and it's quite literally just an XML file. And Qt puts the information in the XML file, and then it's compiled and added into the executable at runtime. You read that out by prefixing it with a colon, and then the path or the prefix that you added, and then the file name. And that's all there is to it. So, thank you for watching. I hope you found this video educational and entertaining, and I'll see you next time. Hey everybody, this is Brian, and welcome to the 13th Qt tutorial with C++. Reading and writing are just simply printing out we couldn't open it. Let's get finish a car project. So the folder one, go back today when we compile and run this. You see that in a nutshell is the tutorial with file added name. Processing it with a tutorial is really just from the resource my files/that fix and selecting the words and we're reading.
Was Satan on the floor? You say many video in here. And this is my checklist. À, bao giờ mới làm hết các video này?
Hey everybody, this is Brian and welcome to the 14th video tutorial on Qt programming with C++. Today we are just going to cover the basics of GUI programming. So go File, New, and then do a C++ Qt GUI application. And I'm just going to name this GUI, and let's throw this in our usual location wherever you put your projects. And I'm just going to choose a QDialog. And if you've been following along with the tutorials, this is all pretty much a review at this point for you. This is our QDialog, and you can resize it. Go into Edit, and there's our project file. Here's our dialog.ui, our dialog header, dialog source, main source. This is all review. So what we're really going to focus on is putting controls on your dialog and how to work with those controls. And
Wait.
And we're going to start off with the Q label. Now you notice over here in the toolbar you can actually type and it will filter things out for you. It's very handy if you got a lot of controls in there. This is a Q label. Notice how you can resize it, move it around. And over here is your Object Explorer. You see here's your dialog, and when you click it, it actually selects a dialog. And we have a label. When you click label, it selects the label. Down here is the properties window. You notice how when you select different things, the property changes. That's the properties of the selected object. Let me actually expand this out so you can see it a little better. You notice how it says Q object, object name label. Well, everything descends from Q object, so it's always going to be there. And then Q widget, because label is also part of the Q widget. This goes into the C++ inheritance chain and multiple inheritance. And you can just scroll down and you see there's a lot of properties. But basically, what a label is really good for is just displaying text. And you notice how it's actually even bold-faced text. And that's the text of the label. You can change this to Hello World. You can even bring up an editor, and you can format it in specific ways. For example, if you want it bold, italic, underline. And if you're wondering, flip over to source, it's just HTML. So you can actually have HTML encoded controls. And that is pretty neat. And you can do all that with the editor. You don't have to type any of that out. Just Control R to run your application, or if you want to debug, I believe it's F5. It'll build it, run it, and there you go. Now, another way of working with this is actually via code. And let's go into dialog.cp. And right here is our constructor. And we're going to say UI label, because that's the name of the control, label. And we're going to say set text. And we'll say, let's just say hello everyone. And let's run this. And see, sure enough it says hello everyone. Now notice we lost the formatting. That's because there is no HTML formatting in here. Let's actually just throw a little bit in here just so you can see how to do this manually. These are called HTML aware controls. Just run this again. See how it boldface hello and not everyone. Alright. Now, if you're wondering, how do you know what's on your form? I mean, you look in dialog.h and you don't see a reference to a label in here anywhere, but you do see a pointer to this UI. It's called UI, and it's a dialog. Well, that's your dialog right here. Now, how do you find what's on there? Well, other than just looking around and going through Object Explorer, you can actually go edit and look at the XML source. That's really all this dialog is just a big XML document. And when you scroll down, you see widget class Q label. There's your label name, and then you've got these specific properties like the X location, Y location, the width, height, etc., etc. Really don't modify this unless you really feel adventurous, because you can really screw up your dialog. Always try to use the GUI interface for modifying your GUI. It's much simpler, much cleaner. One thing you should really note out of this whole thing is it's very quick to build an application, and then you can even filter out some properties here. I type test instead of text. There we go. And you can just say, you know, LOL. And that's the bare bones basics. Now you notice how even though we typed LOL and we ran it, we got hello everyone. Remember, that's because we have it in our dialogues constructor here. So you should always note that the code you write will override the interface. Well, this is Brian, and in this tutorial you learn the basics of working with Qt Creator and the Qt Designer, and also the Q label, which is the simplest of controls. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video educational. Hey everybody, this is Brian, and welcome to the 14th video tutorial on Qt programming with C++. Today we are just going to cover the basics of GUI programming. So go File, New, and then do a C++ Qt GUI. Use start letter, lay change line, and you can do it. And if you want to tell, control if you're in build or Q label, which is also watch learn graphics type unlock the log kits. So they control can start an always object. Let me play it and unlock video tutorial on Qt. Hey everybody, this is Brian. Welcome to the 15th Qt tutorial on C++ and GUI programming, and today we're going to cover the Q push button. Alright, now we're reutilizing our project from the last tutorial, the GUI program, and the only modification I've made is in the dialog.cpp. I've added a reference to Qt Core and Qt GUI, and we're including those just to make it a little easier so we don't have to include them every single time. Now let's flip into our dialog here, and we're just going to add a Q push button. You've probably seen push buttons a million times in your career and you know exactly what they do. You click it and something happens. Well, Qt, you can add the text, an icon, you can make it checkable, a whole slew of other properties. You should really explore the API because we're just going to cover the basics here. One thing you should note is that you cannot do HTML formatting in the button. It's just the way the API is. So you can set the text here, or you can double click the button and just type it here. We'll just say click me, and let's save and run it. Now when you run this, you'll get your dialog with a button on it, and when you click it, ta-da, nothing happens. Why is that? Well, if you go back to our 4th tutorial on Qt programming, signals and slots, you know that when a object emits a signal, you need a slot to consume that or listen to it. Well, we haven't added a slot here. The signal's being emitted, but we're not listening to it. So you gotta right-click the button, go to slot, and you get a whole list of slots associated with this button. And we're just going to focus on click, but you should note that there's pressed, released, toggled, etc., etc. Pressed is when the mouse is down, release is when the mouse is up. Toggled is if the button's checkable. It tells you the state, whether it's checked or unchecked. Just go ahead and select clicked and hit OK. And that adds the on push button clicked function. Now, this is where the real work comes in. When we push that button, the signal will be emitted, and the slot, which actually has been added into dialog.at, is right here, void on push button clicked, will be called. And I'm going to show you the Q message box class. And it's got a static function called information. And you just need to set the parent, set the title. We'll just say title here, and set the text. We'll say hello world. Now, don't get too engrossed in the Q message box class. We're going to cover it in later tutorials. I just wanted to show you so that when you click the button, you know that something happens. Let's run our program. And there's our button, and when we click it, ta-da, there is our message box. So very simple. It's one of the simpler controls out there, but one of the most used. You'll use buttons a lot in your programs. So this is Brian. I hope you found this video educational and entertaining, and thank you for watching. Hey everybody, this is Brian, and welcome to the 15th Qt tutorial on C++ and GUI programming. And today we're going to cover the Q push button. I'm going to click the button on it, and you know that I'm just going to follow the state. Whether this is page is right here. When we push that, will be called. Signal will be. and be omitted. Just need to later blur the motion buttons a lot. So on this video, and thank you for watching. Check for not me. Emits sig button. Pressed is when the mouse is down and be emitted. Just need to set the parent, set the title. It happens. Is our message. This is educational and entertaining, and thank you for watching. Hey everybody, this is Brian and welcome to the 16th Qt tutorial with C++ and GUI programming. Today we're going to be covering the Q line edit control. You've already worked with buttons, so we're going to actually use a button here. You know what a button is, and we're going to put this little guy to work here, and we'll say, once again, click me. And we want the line edit control, which is a text box if you're coming from the C# Visual Basic world, or even in some cases Java. And let's just position those around a little bit. And if you're kind of wondering, if your form's looking something like this, how you can clean that up, just right-click your dialog, go to Layout, and then just choose a layout that's appropriate. For example, you can choose the layout horizontally. And you notice how your icon changes. And that way, this will always be laid out, and it'll auto-size itself too. I recommend you go back and watch the layout tutorials. I think it was tutorial 8, horizontal and vertical layouts. Very simple to understand. Alright, let's focus on the line edit here. Notice how it's got some properties. For example, text. It's got like a max length, things like that. Max length is so you don't get buffer overflow. Somebody doesn't try to put a bajillion characters in here and crash your program and make it do something it shouldn't. Echo mode normal. You can set like password, etc., stuff like that. When you type in a password, you get the little dots. We're just going to leave that at normal. And let's actually work with this. So right-click the button, go to slot, and we're just going to create the click slot. And we're going to say UI, line edit, because that's the name of the control. And we're going to say set text. And you just add the text in here. And let's run this. It may take a second to compile. My computer's doing 5 other things. And notice how you can type in there, and when you click the button, remember our conversation about signals and slots, ta-da, changes to hello world. So that is the line edit in a nutshell. One thing you might be wondering is how do you get the text out of here? Well, very simply, you can also say, you know what the Q message box is. So we'll use one of those, and we'll say, information. You've seen this before. Shouldn't be anything too overly alien to you. And let's say, and we're just going to get the UI line edit dot text. There we go. So when we click this, it's going to, when we click the button, sorry, it's going to set the text, and then we're going to pop open a message box with the text. Let's run this. And you can see, there you go. Now let's comment this out. And we're going to flip back in here. I want to show you the password echo. Echo mode, set this to password. Save it, and let's go back in here. Just remember, you've got to comment this out right here for this to really work in this tutorial. Otherwise, you might get some funky results here. Let's run this and just type a few characters. That would be your password, and just say click me, and there's the characters you type. So we could say my cat is bad. So no, that's not my real password, but I'm not going to type my password. You'll have to guess. But this is Brian. I hope you found this video educational and entertaining, and thank you for watching. Hey everybody, this is Brian and welcome to the 16th Qt tutorial with C++ and GUI programming. Today we're going to be covering the Q line edit control. You've already worked with buttons, so we're going to actually use a button here. You know what a button is, and we're going to put this little guy to work here, and we'll say, once again, world, or go back and put a little dot. Say UI, add the buttons in here and crash your program. My computer, you can anything touch button. addict. I hope you found it and character tutorial. So you can use block, type in something here, go back that up or line. Hey everybody, this is Brian and welcome to the 17th Qt tutorial with C++ and GUI programming. Today we're going to be covering the Q checkbox. So let's just drag and drop one of these little guys on here, and let's add a push button on too. And the infamous click me, and let's just say I like cats. Just for the sake of argument, bear with me here. Now a checkbox probably looks very familiar to you. You've probably seen a million of these in your lifetime and you just need to know how to work with one. Let's run this just so I can show you what it does. The checkbox is a graphical representation of a Boolean value, on or off, true, false. So checked, unchecked, checked, unchecked. That's really all this control does. Now let's right click here, go to slot, clicked. You should be an expert at that right now. And this is how you access that control. You could say UI checkbox set checked, and we'll say true. Actually, let's just cut that and throw that right in the constructor. That way it's checked when the dialog's loaded. And then we're going to add a little bit of logic here. We're going to say if UI dot checkbox is checked. In Qt, if it's a Boolean value, it'll use the word is in front of it, so is checked. And that'll return a Boolean, and we can say else. And let's just add a Q message box in here. This, and we'll say cats. And we'll say you like cats. And if they don't like cats, remember this is our if else, we'll just say you don't like cats. Save your work. And the logic here is very simple. When the button's clicked, it's going to read the is checked value out of the checkbox. If it is checked, it's going to say you like cats. If it's not, it's going to say you don't like cats. And let's just run this. And remember, in our constructor, it's setting UI checkbox set check true, so it's going to be checked by default. You say you like cats, and you can uncheck that. Click again, you don't like cats. So that is the Q checkbox. Very simple, easy to use control. Also very powerful. You use a lot of these in your applications. I realize this is a short tutorial, but this is a relatively simple control. It's kind of a no-brainer. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video educational and entertaining. Hey everybody, this is Brian and welcome to the 17th Qt tutorial with C++ and GUI programming. Today we're going to be covering the Q checkbox. So let's just drag and drop one of these little guys on here, and let's add a push button on too. And the infamous click me, and let's just say I like cats. Just for the sake of argument, bear with me here. Now a checkbox probably looks very familiar to you. You've probably seen a million of these in your lifetime and you just need to know how to work with one. Let's run this just so I can show you what it does. The checkbox is a graphical representation of a Boolean value, on or off, true, false. So checked, unchecked, checked, unchecked. That's really all this control does. Now let's right click here, go to slot, clicked. You should be an expert at that right now. And this is how you access that control. You could say UI checkbox set checked, and we'll say true. Actually, let's just cut that and throw that right in the constructor. That way it's checked when the dialog's loaded. And then we're going to add a little bit of logic here. We're going to say if UI dot checkbox is checked. In Qt, if it's a Boolean value, it'll use the word is in front of it, so is checked. And that'll return a Boolean, and we can say else. And let's just add a Q message box in here. this, and we'll say cats, and we'll say you like cats. And if they don't like cats, remember this is our if else, we'll just say you don't like cats. Save your work. And the logic here is very simple. When the button's clicked, it's going to read the is checked value out of the checkbox. If it is checked, it's going to say you like cats. If it's not, it's going to say you don't like cats. And let's just run this. And remember, in our constructor, it's setting UI checkbox set check true, so it's going to be checked by default. You say you like cats, and you can uncheck that. Click again, you don't like cats. So that is the Q checkbox. Very simple, easy to use control. Also very powerful. You use a lot of these in your applications. I realize this is a short tutorial, but this is a relatively simple control. It's kind of a no-brainer. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video educational and entertaining. Hey everybody, this is Brian, and welcome to the 17th Qt tutorial with C++ and GUI programming. Today we're going to be covering the Q checkbox. So let's just drag and drop one of these little guys on here, and let's add a push button on too. And the infamous click me, and let's just say I like cats. Just for the sake of argument, bear with me here. Now, a checkbox probably looks very familiar to you. You've probably seen a million of these in your lifetime, and you just need to know how to work with one. Let's run this just so I can show you what it does. The checkbox is a graphical representation of a Boolean value, on or off, true, false. So, checked, unchecked, checked, unchecked. That's really all this control does. Now, let's right-click here, go to slot, clicked. You should be an expert at that right now. And this is how you access that control. You could say UI checkbox set checked, and we'll say true. Actually, let's just cut that and throw that right in the constructor. That way it's checked when the dialog's loaded. And then we're going to add a little bit of logic here. We're going to say if UI dot checkbox is checked. In Qt, if it's a Boolean value, it'll use the word is in front of it, so is checked. And that'll return a Boolean. And we can say else. And let's just add a Q message box in here. This, and we'll say cats. And we'll say you like cats. And if they don't like cats, remember this is our if else, we'll just say you don't like cats. Save your work. And the logic here is very simple. When the button's clicked, it's going to read the is checked value out of the checkbox. If it is checked, it's going to say you like cats. If it's not, it's going to say you don't like cats. And let's just run this. And remember, in our constructor, it's setting UI checkbox set check true, so it's going to be checked by default. You say you like cats, and you can uncheck that. Click again, you don't like cats. So that is the Q checkbox. Very simple, easy to use control. Also very powerful. You use a lot of these in your applications. I realize this is a short tutorial, but this is a relatively simple control. It's kind of a no-brainer. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this video educational and entertaining. Hey everybody, this is Brian, and welcome to the 17th Qt tutorial with C++ and GUI programming. Today we're going to be covering the Q checkbox. So let's just drag and drop one of these little guys on here, and let's add a push button on too. We're going to drop probably go represent. Let's could say actually. Let's check by. I hope you say don't. Else right now. Enjoy you here. Hey everybody, this is Brian. Hey everybody, this is Brian. Welcome to the 18th Qt tutorial with C++ and GUI programming. Today we're going to cover the Q radio button. So let's just actually drag and drop a few of these on here. And let's just drop a button on there too. And let's just throw these in a layout, make them nice and neat. And then we'll create the forms layout. There we go. Use the infamous click me. And we'll say cats and dogs.
Cats and dogs.
And let's actually call this radio button 1. And we'll call this radio button 2. So very simple. We have two radio buttons, cats and dogs, and a button that says click me. Go ahead and select cats. And we're going to say checked, and just check it. Now let me run this application and show you exactly what radio buttons do. I'm sure you've probably seen these before, but I just want to show you. It allows you to check one or the other, and you can have many of these, and as long as they're in the same control group or widget group, they will stay together. But for this example, just very simple, cats or dogs. And then we're going to right click the button, go to slot, clicked. I'm kind of going through this really fast. If you've been following along with my tutorials, you're acing this right now. You're kind of sitting here falling asleep. So we're just going to real quickly do this. If UI, and we're going to say radio button 1. Is checked. And instead of doing an else, I'm going to actually, just go into both of them here. But say Q message box information, and you've seen the message box before. There's no voodoo magic going on here. And let's just say UI. And we'll get the text property out of there. Let's just copy that, paste it, and change the radio button 1 to radio button 2. That way you'll see which one fires this off. Let's just save and run our work here. And when you hit click me, you see that cats is selected. When you select dogs and click me, you'll see that dogs is selected. So that's the Q radio button. Very simple. It's similar to a checkbox, but it's different in the fact that you can have multiple checkboxes and check them individually, where the radio button will force you to and the very here these radio buttons don't these now you're here, but information paste here individually here. Hey everybody, and welcome to the 19th Qt tutorial with C++. As you can see, we've just got our basic GUI application with our dialog box. Today we're going to cover combo boxes. If you have no idea what a combo box is, it should be pretty self-explanatory once you drag and drop one onto a form. Yes, it's that little box where you click it and you get a list of options. We're going to build one of those today. So just drag and drop one on, and then let's go into dialog.cpp, UI, combo box, and we're just going to add item. Notice you can add actions. We'll get into that into another tutorial, but you should be familiar with the Qt framework and that you can add item, items, or actions. So we're just going to add a single item here, and we're just going to say hello, and we'll add another one here. Going to keep this simple just for starters. We'll get a little more complex here in a second. And let's compile and run, and there is the basics of a combo box. It allows you to select an item out of a list of items. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, let's just delete that. And we're going to actually say while I is less than, we'll say 9. Just going to do a basic for loop here, and we're going to say UI combo box add item. We will say I plus. So we're going to just add a number with the item name. And let's save and run this. And what this does is it gives you a very real sense that, well, it'd help if this actually worked. Didn't work. Why is that? Well, it didn't work because we are trying to actually add in a character value here. You notice how we've got an int, but it's being translated into a char value. How can I tell it's being translated into a char value? Well, when you run this again, you'll notice, as soon as it builds, that you got this weird, Y with 2 dots over it. What in the world's going on there? Well, that's a non-printable ASCII character. So what we need to do here is go Q string. Whoops. Help if I could spell string. And we're going to say number. And then put the I in there. So we're calling the Q string with the static function number, and that will successfully convert that integer into a string. That way you're not printing the actual character. See, it would print character 0, character 1, not the ASCII representation, which is what we want. So that's a common pitfall I just wanted you to be aware of. I stumbled across that last night, actually. So let's compile and build this. And sure enough, now we magically have a working list. Now, this is great, but how do we tell which item they actually have selected here? Well, let's go into our dialog and let's just add a button here. So we're just going to throw a push button down in here with the epic click me. And we're just going to add a click slot in here. And we're going to just simply say a message box. And whatever title you want to give it. And for the text, we are going to say UI combo box 1 current text. Very simple. So all you're really saying is current text out of combo box. It gets the current text. So let's run this. And item 0. So if we select another item here, let's say 6, item 6. And you can also get the index out of here using the, you guessed it, current index. So what good does this really do? Well, combo boxes are a very good way of displaying a lot of data to the user very quickly and letting them choose. Let's say you're running a pet shop and they want to choose between a bird, a cat, or a dog. Or you're running, I don't know, a clothing store. What size do you want, small, medium, or large? So that is the Q combo box in a nutshell. Very simple control. I realize that the last couple tutorials have been very easy. We're gradually going to progress into more and more difficult controls, and then we'll get into the non-visual stuff like threadings and timers and things of that nature. This is Brian. I hope you found this video educational and entertaining, and thank you for watching. Hey everybody, and welcome to Text Read. Going to keep this simple, just out of a represent dial amount quickly and letting them change, and thank you for watching. Hey box, that little pp, another large box, and what does trying to add a function number character? So convert what we want to have at a button, and choose progress, and thank you for watching.
Okay, so I will finish this video today. It's the subject. Bye.